The mayor is in the house. Today's guest is Plano Mayor John Muns. Mayor Muns has been a longtime servant of the city of Plano, first serving on the school board, then the Economic Development Commission, and now as the city's 40th mayor. I'm super excited to have him on the show today. Welcome to the podcast. So I wondered if we could start a little bit talking about your story serving Plano, because I think you have a long history in the city.
We moved to Plano in like 69, way out here west of Preston, which was unheard of because it was farmland. And it was a breath of fresh air. So I went to school primarily all through my elementary, middle, and high school here in Plano. And so I have that love for Plano in the education part of it. And went to Abilene Christian University, came back. I met my wife there. We came back and just got plugged in. And so I actually wanted to kind of give back to the community that had done so much for me. And I ran for school board at PISD.
Okay.
And so I was successful, and I spent 16 years on the school board here in Plano. And again, that's a volunteer job. It's an elected job, but it's still volunteer. And my wife was involved in junior league and children's health and many other of those things. Yeah. So we were very busy. And at the same time, my dad was on city council and then became the mayor of Plano in 1992.
You're second generation.
I am. I'm second generation.
Do you have a son?
I do.
Is that maybe in his aspirations too?
I don't know. He's watching very closely, but it's probably
the world has probably changed a little bit.
It's not helping a whole lot. So he was actually the mayor, and I was the president of the school board, I think for about a year and a half together, which was really interesting.
Dynamic,
it was very interesting.
The Plano School Board. I mean, Plano School Board is a huge school district with.
It's a big school district. 50,000 kids.
Oh my gosh.
70 plus campuses. I mean, it is a huge operation.
Yeah, and if I recall, their budget is towards $1 billion. I think. I mean, it's
really
impressive.
And what's so great about it, and I knew this all along, but since being the mayor and really getting involved with the companies that are here in Plano, and then the companies that are really interested in coming to Plano, education is usually always at the top of their list. And they're very happy with the education system here in Plano. And that has a lot to do with why we're so successful attracting companies.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, all the time with people moving from out of state, that's at the top of their list are schools.
No doubt.
So they're looking at that. So you worked, you served, I should say, on the school board. And then I think Economic Commission or some other roles too.
During that time, I was also on the Economic Development Board because they always have one representative from the school district to be on the board, especially when there's incentives and things like that, which no longer really exist for the school district because they're just not allowed to do that anymore. But the economic development, and that was right after JCPenney and EDS moved to Plano, and that was kind of the evolution of understanding that, you know what, we could be good at this. We could be really a good corporate community, and so it's amazing where we're at today in comparison to, just little old Plano going, all of a sudden this big retail company and this big computer company is coming to Plano. What does that mean?
Yeah.
Well, it means there's some really great opportunities. And so since then, we've, as I said earlier, we had such great foresight in planning this city. And it's really a well-planned city. We have 85 parks, and it's going to be about 89 because we'll include some new developments that include parks. But they all, every school that I was mentioning has a park next to it. And then there's rec centers, and there's splash pads, and And so we win the best park system in the state of Texas, which is, I know, there's no mountains, there's no beaches, there's no hill country. But accessibility, once again, is what makes this so attractive.
I believe I read this somewhere, but every home in Plano is walkable to a park.
5 minutes.
Yeah. And I live over by Arbor Hills. I'm probably there like 4 or 5 days a week.
And you see how popular Arbor Hills is.
Yeah.
It's incredible. And so those are some real attributes that if you're really planning for 30 and 40 years down the road, this can happen. But if you're just chasing your tail, growing at a dynamic level, sometimes it's hard to stop and say, hey, wait a minute, before we, do this, and this, shouldn't we, think about what that's going to be like in 30 and 40 years?
Right. Because the city will still be here.
They did that. And I think that's what's so really cool about Plano.
It is super cool. I'm almost getting goosebumps thinking about it, because to have that kind of foresight, it's just rare for anybody. And to have a group of leaders, like you said, 30, 40 years ago, that said, hey, how do we make this really dynamic? And you said little old Plano. I mean, it's definitely not little or old anymore. It's super dynamic.
No, it's the 9th largest city in Texas, and we are in a consortium with the big cities of Texas, and we call ourselves the Big City Mayors.
Okay.
And so we meet twice a month, mostly on Zoom, but occasionally we'll meet in person, and we talk about similar interests that we're dealing with. And sometimes, Houston may not be having the same issues that Plano is, but a lot of times we are. And we're all affected by the same legislation that comes out of Austin. So it's really interesting to hear, the issues that are affecting them and very similar for all of us.
That is really interesting to think about, because people are most affected by their local government. Like the roads, the schools, the parks, like you said, but they often give it second thought. Like they get absorbed and emotional about the big national issues that don't really affect their day-to-day commute to work, right?
It's so true. We've always said, your local government accomplishes more in 2 weeks than Washington will accomplish in 10 years.
Yeah.
And we really do make things happen very quickly. And so I think people really ought to spend more time and attention to what's going on locally. But, we don't have, news networks and things like that raise everybody's, temperature level up.
Oh, yeah, so. I'm doing my best to spread the message. But, I don't like to aggravate people. So we'll see.
Yeah.
So you mentioned this other league of mayors or group of mayors, and I hadn't thought about it, but you're in a way negotiating with the state over policies that are going to affect residents locally.
Right.
Is there competition among the mayors?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. And we're all friends. We really are. But to say that we don't compete with Frisco and McKinney and Dallas and Arlington and Irving, we do it all the time.
Yeah.
And we win some and we lose some.
What do you mean when you say competition, though? Like when you're talking about?
Well, mostly it's about corporate relocations, companies moving from a different part of the country or a different part of the world. And it's real interesting the decision makers and what they're looking for when they finally make their decision. And we're not... We're competing with Georgia and Florida and Arizona.
States too.
They're all very competitive, and so it's really probably most of what I do is working with companies that are here, making sure they're happy, or companies that are considering coming here. And so it's a big issue, and people need to understand the reason why is because the corporate community pays over 50% of our property taxes. And then the other 50% or 47% are residents.
Yeah.
But the corporate community doesn't require the amenities and services like our residents do. So it's always really important for us as a city to have that even mix that will always keep that tax rate down.
It makes sense because the homeowners benefit from all the corporate.
I mean, they really do. Yeah. And obviously, when you have jobs, that's the other benefit
very important.
of making Plano a place that people want to come to.
Yeah, and there are a lot of jobs here.
There are.
I feel like there's a lot of job openings here too that still need to be filled.
There are, but there's also we're really diverse in our corporate community as far as, whether it's not just banking, but it's high tech, and it's all over the map, and it really requires a high-level workforce, an educated workforce. And we've always seemed to provide that for companies that are really concerned about that the most. And so it's never something you rest your laurels on and say, oh, we got a great workforce, we don't have to do anything about it. We constantly work on, how do we improve that area? But it's something that the companies really do see a benefit of being in this area as far as having access to an educated workforce.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. The talent wars in a way is a big deal. I mean,
it is. And
now,
and now you can get talent without them living here, which, the pandemic provided. And so then we have to kind of almost raise our game a little bit and make sure that it's okay for them to have employees that don't live here, but we'd also, and I think that's changing. I think they're realizing they really do need their people personally together. It's certain, maybe not 5 days a week, but certainly 3 or 4 days a week, and I'm starting to see that change throughout that corporate community.
I've seen it in the traffic on Dallas North Tollway. So, but I also personally believe that too. Like I like our team to be close and touchable, and just it's way easier to build relationships with people in person than on a screen. You can maintain them on Zoom, but it's harder to build them on Zoom.
Zoom does some amazing things, but it's. I've seen where it's just so much more effective to be together.
Yeah. You touched on this a little bit, but as mayor, like, what does a day in the life look like?
So the mayor does do a lot of openings, grand openings, ribbon cuttings, things like that. But I also, as I said earlier, I spend a lot of time with our corporate community to make sure that they have what they need to be happy in Plano. And on the resident side, we make sure that we're doing a lot of town hall meetings and personal meetings to make sure that whatever the issue may be, and there may not be any issue, but just safety and security, response times for our first responders, things like that. And being able to communicate that kind of once again is that, town crier and making sure that we are communicating with our community and making sure that, whatever we're doing right. And if we need to improve that, we do. So there's just a lot of work, amongst our community, whether it be the corporate community or residents community, to making sure, we're doing what we need to do to make sure everybody's happy.
It sounds like a lot of
different
different ways to have them, but
sure. And again, Plano is very diverse. We have found that niche, and I don't think it was intentional. I think people came to Plano because it was safe, it had good education, it had opportunities, and we just have a great mix of diversity throughout all over the world, and it just kind of makes us that much better and stronger. And there's always those opportunities for me to sit down with different diverse groups and find out areas of concern. Do you feel safe here? And most of the time we have such a very responsive community that lets us know when we can improve or we're doing a good job at the same time.
Yeah. So when you're not mayoring, what do you like to do in your off time?
Well, I am. So one of my proudest moments is that I am. I've lived here for a long time. I have 3 children, adult children, and I have 7 grandchildren.
Oh, wow.
With 1 on the way, and everyone lives in Plano.
Wow.
Now, I'm not sure I had any directive on that, but I'm very proud to tell everybody that I support Plano in every ways possible.
Yeah, and it means they all live close too. Even if they're on the opposite side of Plano, it's not far away.
I mean, everybody's close, and so I'm always excited to have them, around the house every now and then, and but we love, I used to travel a lot more than I do now as mayor, but we love to travel. I love to go to the beach and scuba dive and ride my bike and things like that.
Okay.
So we're very active. My wife plays a lot of tennis, and so we try to enjoy the little bit of free time that we have.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of pressure on your time.
It really is.
What's one of those things that's a constant thorn in your side?
I think one of the areas I think is this not in my backyard mentality, or we call it NIMBY.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of people need to understand the opportunities that development can create. And it does. And when I say development, it shouldn't be a bad word. I mean, there's really opportunities that really kind of enhance value and enhance amenities and things like that I think we almost take for granted here in Plano, because we have so much at our disposal so close by now. And when we do have a new development or an opportunity,
I could just imagine. Yeah.
Sometimes people think that that's going to ruin the flavor of Plano that they've come to know and love, and most of the time it just adds to the quality.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of times I think we tend to be very negative when something new comes into town, and we need to just kind of have a little more objective perspective about things.
Yeah, it's a fear of change, I think, for people. But I could see, in being local government, how that could be a huge thorn in your side.
Well, just as an example, so Collin Creek Mall was it served its purpose for 40 years.
Yeah.
But then it became an eyesore, and big giant malls just stopped being popular and useful. And we were able to come up with an opportunity to completely change Collin Creek to basically a new opportunity for shopping and living and office and restaurants, and those were putting parks there, and so if you don't do these kind of things, then they just become old and stale. And I think one of the biggest things I want to avoid is just kind of resting on our laurels here in Plano. Oh, we did so many great things back in the 80s and 90s.
We're good now.
We're good. And you just can't do that. I mean, and that's the reason why you see so many orange cones in the roads, and I apologize to everybody about that. But you have to continue to upgrade your infrastructure. And if you don't, you will erode. I mean, you will really erode. And we just don't want to be that city.
Yeah.
We really want to be relevant every single day.
In between episodes, stay up to date on all things home and lifestyle with my weekly newsletter, Into the Weekend with Matt, where I share the latest real estate updates, new videos from our team, and advice for both buyers and sellers alike. To sign up, go to hastingsre.com/ITW. That's HAISTINGSRE.com/ITW. Well, I think of Plano as part of the brand, if you will, as like being a dynamic city.
Exactly.
It's not small by any means. I mean, like you said, it's the 9th largest city in Texas.
Yeah.
So it must rank high in the U.S. overall, too. I mean, 300,000 people almost.
I think
it's a big city.
It's a big city, and I think a lot of people will be surprised to hear that. But we're the same size city as Cincinnati and Orlando. People don't think of it that way, but That's true. I mean, that's
it's factually true.
We're factually true. And so when people hear that, they go, oh, my goodness, no way. And it's true. And there's going to be cities bigger than Plano to the north of us in the next 10 or 15 years.
There's more land.
There's more land, and that's just reality.
That's part of the North Texas growth story.
Yeah.
So let's say somebody's thinking about moving to Texas, what would be your argument for choosing a Plano over one of the other suburbs of Dallas?
Well, so we'll go back to those main areas that we hear back from companies. So it's not just my stump speech, but education, quality of living and amenities, the workforce opportunities for people to find high quality, high paying jobs that are really what attracts people here. The diversity of opportunity and just that quality of life that I think Plano has put so much time and effort into over 30 and 40 years.
Yeah.
To make it really a quality place to live.
Yeah, I would say it's easy living too.
Easy living.
You can get to pretty much everything you might want.
Access
within less than 20
to
minutes,
entertainment,
including any traffic.
I forgot what the stat was, but I think we have per capita more restaurants than like New York or something like it. It's just unbelievable.
Yeah.
And
our recent guest was the senior food reporter for the Dallas Morning News.
Oh,
and we talked a little bit about Plano, but we also talked more about North Texas, and there are 14,000 restaurants in
it's just
the metro area.
It's phenomenal.
And I think even in Plano, and this is something she said, like we have an underappreciated restaurant scene here. There's a lot of great restaurants that kind of go beneath the radar screen.
We did. I did an interview with the Morning News a month or so ago, and we were talking about some other things. Then we got into the restaurants, and I said, owner-operated restaurants in Plano, there's some real gems, and a lot of people outside of Plano would have no idea. And so, I was kind of pushing that pretty hard.
Yeah.
Just saying, you need to realize there's some really great restaurants here, and a lot of people have no idea.
Right. Well, they all gravitate towards the shiny, flashy things too that maybe are on their Instagram feed.
No question about
it. So we talked about what's a thorn in your side. What are some of your favorite parts of being mayor?
Well,
or maybe favorite moments would be a different way to think about it.
Some of the favorite moments are the opportunities that we have to have festivals, and we do international festival. We have the Balloon Festival. We have Dickens at Christmas, and then we even do a Halloween festival. And you're always thinking, this is probably, I'm not sure it's going to be that well attended or whatever. And amazingly, how these things are just huge. Last year on Saturday of the Balloon Festival, we had like 70,000 people.
Holy cow.
It was so exciting, and yet at the same time, it was like, oh my gosh, where are we putting all this?
Yeah, that's a good point.
And so, it's almost like if you build it, they will come.
Yeah.
And so there's just so many opportunities that people really want to gather and come together. And so when we're there and we're able to say hello and see so many people, and I know they're not all from Plano, but it's a really heartwarming to see that people really want to come out and be a part of what makes Plano so great.
To be a part of the community.
Yeah.
I had no idea the Balloon Festival was that big.
It was. And so I think they were making some huge efforts to get people to, ride mass transit or into the area this coming, it's in just a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
It's amazing how successful that's been.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is interesting. So what do you think the future of Plano looks like 3, 4, 5 years from now? Or maybe even further?
Yeah, I think further. So one of the interesting aspects of Plano is that we're an international city. I had the pleasure to go to Japan and Korea in April, mostly to meet with the companies that are already here.
Okay.
So Toyota, NTT Data, which is basically the AT&T of Japan. And in Korea, we went to Doosan and Samsung and SG.
Okay.
These are companies that Samsung obviously is, but like Samsung over here at Central and Legacy, there's 4,000 employees there.
Yeah.
We went to the Samsung campus, have 33,000 people on that campus every single day. 800 buses in the morning, 800 buses in the afternoon.
Can't imagine.
I mean, just think about that. It's ridiculous. They get three meals a day, part of their compensation. It's just a machine. And so I think what we've really learned by working with these companies that are already here or coming here, more companies want to get beyond the West Coast. And this isn't a California thing. This is about moving more centralized to be able to meet their customers on the East Coast and West Coast equally.
Yeah.
And there are great incentives for being in Texas. And I'll be the first to say that's a big reason why people even begin to look, is because of our no income tax system here in Texas is a real benefit. But it goes beyond that. It goes beyond that because Georgia and Arizona and others are very competitive, and they don't have that either. So we can show that all the things that we've talked about, the education, the workforce development, the areas of diversity in life science and banking and computer science and all these other things that are now in Plano. Toyota, which is just incredible, isn't it? Every time it's phenomenal to think that Toyota North America chose Plano.
Yeah.
And a lot of it was all of those same things that we've been talking about. And they are a delight to work with. I mean, they're great. But I constantly make sure, I meet with them once a month to make sure, what else can we do to help you guys succeed? We do that with, FedEx. We do it with Liberty Mutual. We do it with, just the other day, Riata is a drug company that's right there at Communications and Legacy.
Okay.
It's that high rise. Riata Biogen just bought them for $7.2 billion. They had one drug, it's approved, and they just got bought for 7.2. So now I have met with them, but now I'm going to meet with them going, okay, you guys are going to stay, right? And do I need to go to Boston to talk to Biogen and say, you guys want to?
You want to move some more people here?
Yeah, we're more than happy to do it.
We're open for business.
So those are interesting dynamics that just are a part of what makes Plano such a diverse corporate community, and so I think that's where we're headed. I think we're headed to completely reinvent the JCPenney campus, the EDS campus, really reinvent Collin Creek Mall, Willow Bend Mall, to really some dynamic new things that I think our community's going to love.
Yeah, that's exciting to think about.
Really going to love.
Yeah, it's living over here, I think about the Willow Bend Mall all the time.
Yeah.
And some of my favorite restaurants are over there.
Me too.
But I'm not much of a mall shopper myself, so I don't think I've been in a long time to the actual mall. But I read all the time about all the plans, and I'm excited to see them come to fruition.
I'm real hopeful. And again, this is a different dynamic than Collin Creek, because I don't think you're going to see it was almost had to be destroyed and start over at Collin Creek. Whereas Willow Bend, it's really set up perfectly. They've got, not only do they have ground parking that would fulfill AT&T Stadium, but they have multi-level parking at all different parts of the mall area. And so I think you're going to see another real great opportunity for restaurants, walk-up retail. You're going to have some entertainment there, whether it be movie theaters or live theater or things like that. hotel and office, and so I'm real excited about that.
And that's what you think, 5 years off?
Yeah,
just from a construction perspective, I think.
I think it could even be faster than that.
Oh wow!
Yeah, because it's just again, they're going to open, like you said. I mean, not many people want to go in a mall anymore. They want to be able to drive up to, their retail purveyor and just in that regard, and so. They're going to open it all up, so it's a whole lot more walkable and drivable and things like that. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Well, outside of like this summer, the weather here is usually like phenomenal, and it's great for outdoor shopping and dining. I mean, I try 9 months of the year.
I know. I try to brag to people. I said, look, we do really well from October to June, but I said there were 3 months that are pretty rough.
It's gonna be a little toasty.
So
yeah.
So just understand it's a longer good period than it is the short period.
Yeah. Before the show, we had talked a little bit about some of the residential things too.
Yeah.
And what's different about Plano than some of the other suburbs is it's effectively built out.
Right.
And there's just a few big pieces of land left to meaningfully change the number of homes for sale.
And we do have several. Opportunities for more single family housing in Central Plano and East Plano, and there's some infill things that are going to happen single family here in the West Plano part of town. So I think you're also seeing an interesting dynamic in what the demand is for different types of housing. And I can remember in the 80s hearing about condominiums or townhomes, and it was just like a foreign object for us here in North Texas. And now it's just a really hot market. I mean, people really want that lock and leave kind of house that has all the amenities, but they don't have the yard, they don't have all the upkeep and all that.
Yeah.
So I'm seeing a lot of home builders kind of do a mix of single family with the typical yard and things like that, but also that no lot line townhome product. It seems to be real popular.
Yeah, Windrose Tower was sort of an anomaly, but a very impressive project that came about too as condos, so different kind of multifamily.
It is, but even the two high rises, I think it's LV 29.
And the Meridian, I think, right?
And maybe, but those are rentals, and they're full too.
Yeah.
And those are not cheap rents, as you know.
I mean, no, they're not. And it's funny to think about. I imagine when you first moved to Plano, the idea of having like skyrise living is just not.
The one thing that we really have to keep an eye on for Windrose is the Legacy Hall and the music. So we have to. Make them quit a little earlier than maybe
because it's residential.
It's amazing how the sound really
floats right up the building.
It affects the people like on row 50, floor 15 through 30, and the people closer to the ground don't hear it. So we're, Legacy West is a dynamic all its own, and we are so proud of that. I mean, it's amazing how well it does. And again, I mean, it's
also a destination because people are coming there from all over the metro area.
No question about
West.
We are our hotel industry, especially in that area, is full. It's been full all summer.
Wow.
It's where the players stay when they play the Byron Nelson.
Okay.
Messi stayed there the other night. And so it just goes to show you it's where it's really an attraction, and it has so many great amenities to it, and we're really proud of it. We really are, and because it has a life of its own,
it is,
and I think it's one of the top properties in the United States as far as just success goes.
Yeah, it's a really well done development.
So it's really a proud moment. But we've done so much in downtown Plano, and it's just come so far. And
I like downtown Plano.
I love downtown Plano, and it's also a great destination for events and things like that I talked about earlier. And so we're seeing growth there in every direction, and so we're really excited about the things that are going to be happening there in the next 3 to 5 years too.
Yeah, you talked about hotels, and as a real estate agent, a lot of people ask me about Airbnb.
Yeah,
and I know the city recently moved to ban Airbnb. Can you talk about like some of the factors that influence that?
There's a lot of information that we still need to collect on how Airbnbs really do affect home ownership. I mean, you always have the property rights issue, which is something that I believe the state defends pretty strongly.
Yeah.
And so what I think would be the best solution would be to find areas to mitigate any noise and trash and parking and things like that, that I think we all would agree that we'd like to, if someone's renting, we'd like to eliminate those kind of issues. So we're right now in the middle of gathering data and trying to come up with, a real good opportunity that would be a solution to both sides.
Yeah, it's a complicated issue.
It really is.
It kind of speaks to I'm a big advocate for property rights in general. But this speaks to the not in my backyard thing too. Like people are like, well, no, I don't want this in my backyard. And I imagine that's another thorn in your side type of issue.
It's really, there's not an easy answer to it. And so we really need to, I know people don't want to hear this, but we really need to go slow and make sure we're making the right decisions and not overreacting to, in a situation that may have happened on a weekend and it was loud and,
that was also the Super Bowl weekend, right?
The overreactions.
Yeah.
And again, I understand people want to be able to have those amenities for their own house, and they shouldn't have to, sacrifice somebody being next door that, keeps them up and all those other things. So we're trying to take our time, make sure we do it right. We have a committee that's been put together to listen to all the data and on both sides of the fence in regard to property rights versus other property rights, and so it's just something I hope people will have patience with.
Yeah, I personally think it's a 2 to 3 year issue.
Yeah, because we're
just
also
for Texas.
We're also trying to be diligent to make sure that we can see maybe a lawsuit that's happened in Austin or Grapevine or Arlington or wherever it may be, and be able to learn from those court cases so that we're not just walking right into
let's repeat this
another storm.
Yeah, that's true. I guess city governments can get sued, so that's something to be mindful of. So the city probably has a whole legal staff.
We have legal staff, and then we also sometimes have to go outside on unique lawsuits that we may or may not be as experts on. So it's it's a big city. I'm not saying we don't have problems of our own.
But just you saying that made me think like, oh yeah, cities can get sued.
And so we work on all sorts of things, whether it be affordable housing or homelessness or food insecurity, all those kind of things. And I guess that makes Plano so great is we also have those areas that provide those areas of need right here in Plano, whether it be the North Texas Food Bank or Minnie's Pantry or Salvation Army. And so even when we do have problems and we're trying to come up with solutions, we have partners that can help us with these and mitigate some of those areas of need. And so we're constantly trying to come up with a better mousetrap to help the homeless and things like that.
Which is funny. I guess it does exist. It's a big city, so it exists. But it's for me, out of sight, out of mind, the homeless problem, which is I mean, I guess in my mind, it's a good thing, but yeah, it's not something I ever really think about in terms of really North Texas more generally.
It's
just
not
probably lucky.
It's not a big number, certainly for us, but I think we're trying our best to find solutions to people that and sometimes people don't want help, and it's real difficult to find a solution for those people, but a lot of them do, and so we're always looking at helping those that have had fallen on hard times or whatever that may be.
Yeah, that's very good. What inspired you? Like stepping a little higher level. What inspired you to run for mayor?
Well,
in the first place,
I'm to be totally honest. So when I stepped down school board, I 16 years, that was plenty.
Yeah.
And I, fortunately,
parents are probably more passionate than homeowners.
Fortunately, they didn't run me off, but they probably should have. And so I really didn't do anything for a few years. And then my good friend Harry LaRosseliere was my predecessor, and he asked me if I would serve on planning and zoning. Mm-hmm. And I thought, well, sure, and anything to help in that area. Well, the next thing you know, we're putting together a comprehensive plan, and it kind of becomes a lot of work, and I just at that moment, even with my dad running or being mayor years ago, I just realized at that moment, okay, all the things that you and I have talked about over this last hour, I want to see continue. Mm-hmm. And there are some that want to run for mayor that would not have that same mentality. And it was almost like, oh, I think I'm going to have to run for mayor, because I really do care about this city.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been here most all my life, and I just have this pride in what it's become, and I just want it to continue. And so it's really a labor of love. I can guarantee you, I can say this right now, I have no interest to go to Austin or to go to Washington.
Yeah.
This is not a career path. This is the finality for me, because I really want to stay right here in Plano.
Yeah, it's home.
It's home.
For sure.
It's home. My kids are here. My grandkids are here. I've just got lifelong friends here, and I really do care about where Plano goes over the next 10 years, 20 years. And if I can at least have it teed up in a position where whoever comes behind me can continue that excellence, then I feel good about the time that I spent.
Yeah, so you're 2 years into your first term.
2 years into your first term, it's 2 4-year terms is the most you can do.
Yeah.
So we have term limits. So you can only 8 years is the most you could do.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
I mean,
you'll probably be tired.
I know some mayors around Texas that don't have terms, and some of these guys and gals have been mayor for 30 and 40 years. I'm just thinking, why in the world?
Yeah, that's just cruising for a bruising.
It's tough. But this is a real pleasure to serve a city like this.
And in terms of your term, do you have any goals you want to accomplish in this first term, or like in the second half?
Well, I want to get Collin Creek and Haggard Farms and Willow Bend completed, or at least on its way to completion by the end of the term.
Okay.
And I certainly, as I talked about earlier, this is not real sexy, but the infrastructure is so important to being relevant in those neighborhoods that we talked about, to stay relevant and in good shape. And I don't think people realize. So when a development is built, say in the 70s or 80s, and they build the roads and all the infrastructure underneath, and maybe even the brick walls that kind of segregate their community or their development next to somebody else's. Well, those developers are gone.
Yeah.
And now that's on us to take care of that. So when we talk about building continuing to work on infrastructure, which is a journey, not a destination. We're also talking about sidewalks and brick walls and areas inside developments, streets and sewers and those kind of
like
things.
Like you said, the not sexy things.
It's not fun, but boy, if they're not working properly, we hear about it really quick. So when we talk about just continuing to make Plano relevant, it may not be some major, relocation or major, corporate community that moves into Plano, but it just has a lot to do with keeping Plano relevant in its maturity.
Yeah.
So that it's still a place people want to live in, people want to come to, and that's a big job. And it's going to take a lot longer than my term, here is mayor. So it's going to be something that continues to be a priority for years to come.
Yeah, it's just going to keep going.
Yeah, because I would say, if we were able to do everything, we're talking about $200 million in road construction for these next 4 years. And I think to do it all, it would be $3 or $4 billion. So we have to bite off, small bites and just keep going down the road.
But the thing is, if you fix it all now, then in 30 years, you're going to have to fix it all again. Then it's just
without question.
Yeah.
So
technology is changing this to a certain extent, also.
Yeah, it has a lot to do with why you're seeing the black tops on some of our main thoroughfares, because they've come up with a new technology to fix the under infrastructure concrete and then put a topper on it, and that disseminates the water, and so this is not something we came up with, but we've found that these last a lot longer than just repairing concrete. So we're hopeful. I know the ride's smoother.
Yeah.
So we're hopeful that it's a new technology that will last longer, and we won't have to go back and repair potholes quite as often.
Yeah, you're right. The not glamorous part of city government. Yeah, I actually hadn't given too much thought to that, but yeah, it's important. And $200 million. I mean, that's a lot of money.
It really is. And you've seen kind of what we're doing right now, and it's a pain, traffic wise, but it's really necessary to get those things done. And we're working as fast as we can to get them done and finished and move on to the next street.
Yeah, I mean, as a Plano resident, I just think about it as part of living in a city too. I mean, it's going to be a nitty city. I
mean, you want to see that happening.
Yeah.
I mean, and there's other cities where it just you never seem to see the correction to some of the problems on the streets and sidewalks and things like that. And that's a real priority to Plano.
Yeah. And that's, I think, a great part about Plano and North Texas more broadly, and why so many people want to move here, is because of things like that, like their cities they've been moving from just haven't been kept up.
We think that's really important. Yeah. We really do.
So for a person listening who wants to get involved in local government, how are ways they can do that?
Well, so one of the things in a city our size, when we talk about all the different areas, from building standards to planning and zoning to cultural affairs and all these other things. So we have a dozen or more boards and commissions.
Okay.
And so we appoint 5 to 10 people on those boards to do the work and come up with recommendations that we need to put into the budget, or that we need to add to the budget, or whatever it may be, to improve those areas, whether it be cultural arts or events or parks and rec and all those things.
Yeah.
And those are always opportunities for people to get involved, see kind of how everything functions in regard to the boards and commissions, and then their report to council, and then how we move forward those recommendations and then move on with our budget. And so that's always, I think, a first step to getting involved. I mean, there's always, nonprofits. Leadership Plano is a big one that you should get involved with, that will kind of give you a very a good idea of how everything works in the city, and that includes schools and Chamber of Commerce and everything else.
Yeah.
And that's a terrific program, and they're in their 40th year or something like that.
Plano.
So it's really a great program. But those are the kind of things that will help you understand how we as a local government work and how effective it is in regards to that. And so, I mean, if you want to run for council and with no experience, it's been done before, and some of those people do a great job. But I think with that service in a board and commission, it gives you a much better launching point to serve on council.
So that's the first step for somebody to get involved.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sure there are volunteer opportunities that float around
Constantly.
Yeah.
And we have also police academies and fire academies that you can, as a volunteer, spend like 6 weeks on and really learn all the things that go on with them, and that's always fun.
Plano has a volunteer portion of the fire department.
Well, they have a course that helps you kind of know how all the operations work. At the police level and at the fire station level. And everybody, I've actually never done that, so I'm planning on doing that. But everybody I talk to says it's a fabulous 6 weeks of learning, all that goes into being a fireman and a policeman.
Yeah, interesting. I grew up in a small town in Northern California, and they have a volunteer fire department with only a couple, pay. It could never work in a big city, but in a small town, you can get away with it. And my dad's done volunteer fire department for years. Oh,
and so when I heard
he does love it, but it's an interesting way to get involved in a city where you have a professional force.
Absolutely,
a person could do that for 6 weeks and understand.
And it just kind of gives you a taste of what it's like on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
In the life of a fireman or a policeman.
Yeah,
so it's really pretty cool.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
Well, I know you're a busy man. What do you wish I would have asked you?
I think it was pretty comprehensive, but I just think there's some really exciting things happening, not just in West Plano, but in East Plano, and just get involved and be a part of the community, whether it be coming to an event, whether a balloon festival or the international festival or Christmas, and just really plugging in and not just kind of be a resident with no involvement in the community, because we have a lot of fun things to do, and I think we have just an amazing group of people that are plugged into Plano and just make some real opportunities fun.
Yeah. That's cool. It's an invitation to get involved.
To get involved.
Well, Mayor Muns, I want to thank you for joining me today. I really appreciate it.
Thanks,
and
Matt.
thank you
great.
also for your service to the community.
It's always a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you.
Have you been thinking about moving to North Texas? Maybe you're looking in Plano, Dallas, Frisco, or the surrounding communities. Each year, our team helps dozens of families make the move to Texas. We'd love to help you begin your journey. Learn more on our website at hastingsre.com. That's HAISTINGSRE.com.